Hey, what's up guys? In this video I'm going to be going over some basic camera knowledge that as a beginner photographer I had no clue had so much influence on the output of my work. They are easily ignored, but if you get a hang of this, it will really boost your photography skills. Stay tuned. Photography can feel hard sometimes, most especially when you're not getting the results you expect. And this is normal when you decide to learn something. When it comes to learning photography, I think the best way is understanding the concept of it. That's where it's easy for you to practice and get the results you expect. My name is Benewara, and in this video I'll be stating 3 things you need to understand when it comes to photography. First on the list is white balance. What is the white balance? The white balance is basically how the camera defines the whites in your image. Whenever you put your image in a professional editing software, the very first thing you see is the white balance indicator. This sort of shows how important this setting really is. It could either be very cold or very warm, but if you get these settings wrong, it could ruin your chances of getting a very good image. Quick disclaimer, you can choose to fix your white balance at any point depending on the mood or style you're going for, but this opinion is from the standpoint of replicating what the human eye sees and producing a clean looking image. There are several white balance preset settings on your camera, ranging from very warm to very cold. There's also the auto white balance and the custom mode. My suggestion for you is to learn how to use the custom mode because this will come in very handy in situations where you have to manually set it by yourself. Just like the name of these presets entail, they can be used in these various situations, but they are not always correct. That is why you should learn how to use the custom mode. This way you can be able to make adjustments anytime that you can. First thing I'll say about the white balance is white balance should be the same as what the eye see. If you're looking through the viewfinder and you're looking with your normal eyes, you should be able to balance the same colors on your camera just as you can see. That way you're able to get the right colors all the time, and when you're editing it wouldn't be such an issue for you. It's very important that you get the right white balance because this way you're seeing colors more clearly and you understand colors more better. The correct white balance is the basis for good color grading. If you have the right white balance, all your color grading presets, everything about color grading will probably come out right. Your skin tones will look right, it won't look too saturated, depending on how good your preset is. But I'm just saying, your presets will sit much better on a balanced image. Correct white balance is the basis for good color grading. So try to keep the white balance in check. Make sure it's not too warm, make sure it's not too cold, make sure it's in the right area. Assuming you're put in a situation where you're indoors and there are different light sources, there could be a fluorescent light source and there could be a very warm light source. You should be able to separate these light sources more accurately. The white should be white and the warm should be warm. You shouldn't make it look too warm, you shouldn't make it look too cold, you shouldn't make it look too blue, you shouldn't make it look too yellow. It should be just as the eye see. The fluorescent light should be fluorescent, the warm light should be warm. A good judge for this would be the skin tones. Assuming there are people in the room and you want to get the right white balance, I think one of the good judges is skin tones. If you're looking at skin tone in an area, the skin tones has to be correct. You should be able to use these elements in the scenery to be a better judge of the right white balance. You should be able to use lights, you should be able to use skin tone. That way you're able to get the right balance all the time and you come out with clean images always. Remember, you should always go for perfection while you're shooting the images rather than going for post-processing. That way it wouldn't be too hard for you. Next on the list is histogram. What is a histogram? Histogram basically is a tool in camera that helps us decide on the best exposure setting for our images. This tool is hardly used, and I know sometimes it might feel overwhelming when you just start photography, but it is very, very important. It's going to help you balance out your images just as it should be. When you see the histogram indicator on your images, you realize that sometimes it leans to the left and sometimes it leans to the right. The histogram indicator is made up of different brightness levels from 0 to 255. The y-axis of the histogram represents the pixels that are present in that particular brightness level, while the x-axis represents the brightness level of the image. So you might ask, why is this important? This is important because the camera's LCD screen is not a good judge of exposure settings. Your monitor's brightness can be set too high and it can sort of confuse the way you receive these images that you take. I've once fallen a victim to that, taking an image with my monitor brightness at a very high level, thinking I've maybe come up with something, but transferring it to my computer, realizing that I really did expose this image. And the thing about exposing images is you cannot really recall details when your images are overexposed or underexposed. So getting the right balance on your histogram is really important. So how do you really use this? First thing I'll say is don't clip your histogram. It shouldn't be too low to the left that is touching the bar. It shouldn't be too high to the right that is touching the bar on the right side. That is clipping. And when you clip your images, you can hardly repair that even with a raw file. Yeah, even with a raw file. Try to balance your histogram in the middle. I mean, this is not always correct, but what I'm saying is it shouldn't just clip. Sometimes it's not possible to balance the histogram in the middle because, like I said, the histogram is made up of different brightness levels and different amount of pixels. If there are a lot of dark areas in your images, your histogram is going to be leaning to the left side. If there's a lot of bright areas in your image, your histogram is going to be leaning to the right side. But the best thing is not letting it clip. You cannot get the details back if your histogram is clipping. So please take note of that. So the last thing I'll say is shooting raw. Starting out, raw images were just too high for me, so I couldn't really shoot in raw. I was shooting strictly on JPEG, but I didn't understand the restrictions that I was putting myself in. Now, having to shoot in raw, I have the leverage to do a lot of editing and do a lot of post correction that I wasn't able to do while I was taking the image. So it gives more room for experimenting and practicing, and you can make a whole lot of adjustments with this. Most importantly, you can make correct white balance corrections with raw images, unlike with JPEG images. You don't have that leverage, you don't have that space to do a lot of corrections, and to be honest, it's just bad practice as a professional. But I mean, it depends on the situation you're caught in. I'm just saying that if you're having to shoot in JPEG, make sure your white balance settings are correct and always take note of your histogram. This is really gonna help you. That's it for me for this video. I hope this was helpful enough for you. Please do well to like and subscribe if you haven't. If you have any questions, do well to reach me on my social media platforms. You can drop them in the comments. I'll respond as much as I can. I'll see you in my next video. Until then, keep it 100.